My name is Ranjan Maharzan. My UoN ID is 18406529. For the assignment of Opportunity, Innovation and Entrepreneurship, I'm here with Mr. Bilal Ahmed Shah, CEO of Latido Leathers. Thank you so much for your time. So can we start with a brief introduction to your company?
So basically, Latido, what we do is we're customizing leather products, and we started with leather jackets. Now we're dealing with leather bags and all that. So basically, we're into producing leather products here in this country.
So let's move on to the core questions regarding opportunities. What are the major problems Latido Leathers has solved and is solving from an entrepreneurial point of view?
I think entrepreneurial point of view, the main thing is that we can do something in this country is what Latido is trying to prove, that to win trust, to become a brand means to win trust of people. And if we can do that in this country, then there are so many possibilities. And it's not just about doing something in leather market it's not just about leather product or leather jacket. It's about something is possible in this country if you have the support of people. So a lot of startups are coming up right now. So I feel happy that it is possible in this country.
So moving on to the theories. Some theories claim that opportunities are either created or discovered. The business of leather jackets already existed before you scaled it to a whole another level. So obviously certain gaps were there in the market. Did you create such gaps or discovered them?
I didn't do anything actually, and I was so stupid at that time. I was 20 years old. I didn't even care. I didn't even think that there's a market or not. I was just too crazy that I wanted to do something. Until that craziness led me. I didn't even think. Yeah, it was there that leather market was not there. That was a challenge, but that was the challenge that my father was actually telling me. When I told him that when I was leather jacket, I want to do something. His first thing was that who's going to buy a product? Even I did not know who's going to buy my product. But what I knew was that I wanted to do this because that is what I wanted to do. That it's not about whether the market is ready for that or whether the market is there or not. I did not know anything. I was so stupid at that time. The market started growing. So it was not that the market was there, but because we created a community, the community created the market. Our community created the market, and it has now opened doors for so many things.
There were a lot of leather products or leather jackets before you entered the market.
Yeah.
So do you believe that the opportunities that you exploited emerged largely because these incumbents, they were not able to look after the needs of the customers, or is it because you created a new kind of demand?
I think what we were doing was already there, but it was not identified among people. In the sense, leather jackets were being made, but wearing a leather jacket made you feel cool was not there. So that the creation of the feeling that wearing that thing makes you feel good was not there. Right? Like there was the market, there was this product being made, but nobody was identified with this community of people who had never wore leather jacket, but when they started wearing it and feeling it, the community grew. So पहिलादेखि नै थियो the बनाउने companies and all that, but what Latido did, as how I perceive it, is that it got into people's life and it impacted their life, is what I feel. Because when I see people, I'm telling you, when people wear our product and they feel good about it, that is what makes us feel good. That it's touching their emotions. So not just about chisoma leather jacket.
Would you agree that there's already existing leather manufacturers, they were not able to make an impact that Latido is making? In a way, Latido has become synonymous to cool, right? But then, yeah, it is. So, but then there were these leather products which were basically expensive, but they gave the feeling that the person is trying to be cool or is cool. But a lot of these companies, they could not actually attract these potential customers. But Latido is trying.
I'm telling you, community thera ke. Now there are group of people who wear leather jackets. It does not matter it's Latido ko, ski like Zako pani bhayo, but now there's the thing about community is people talk, people talk so much, and talking does a lot of things, communicate गर्छ. So communication helps spread things. पहिला leather jacket भने चाहिँ it was more about चिसो मात्रै लाउनु पर्छ, or like our बुढोहरूले मात्रै लाउने कुरा हो भन्ने concept हो नि त. So changing that concept and community, when the community was wearing it, that is something that really helped the entire industry. That's what I feel.
So moving on, how did you use these like perceived gaps, these gaps in the market to scale Latido to the height that it is today?
I think I did not think about the gap or something, and it was just that I was focusing on not just the product. I was focusing on community. Again, I'm going to use the word community a lot of time because it's because of the community that we are here. What Latido is all about is it represents a lot of youth. Okay? What makes me happy is that how people perceive Latido is not just in terms of the product. I won't call our product or like the best in market. We're improving. There are a lot of things that needs to get done, but a lot of our followers, they because through Latido they feel empowered to do something on their own. So that connection, to point with a gap, which has helped us in getting access to a lot of people. Okay? So it's not just about focusing on the product part, but the gap. Why say the concept in Nepalma Nepali brand it's cheap or it's not good quality or it's a scam. But when you are creating a community where even if you do something wrong, you are accessible. If I do something wrong, if we are accessible, or we are ready to accept that apology or to have that apology that it's a mistake, boy, we're ready to fix that. That is where trust comes in. That okay, so त्यो एउटा ग्याप चाहिँ पहिला एकदम मिसिङ जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई in terms of यहाँ चाहिँ कस्तो कन्सर्न एकचोटि बेच्यो now like that's gone.
Customer relationship.
How we see customer is that every customer is a lifelong friend, right? It's not that once sold it's over, we will go on to the next one. Okay? How do we connect? How do we connect more and more? आजको जमाना, even though we have so many social media, connecting with people is so difficult. Connecting with our loved ones is so difficult. So creating that connection was a gap, and that is where we are feeling. How we can promote these communities. For example, music. How can we promote music? Now, it's not just about the leather jacket thing. I know leather jacket is part of a musician's life. So how can we promote musicians? How can we promote music? Art, now like bikers, everywhere. There is so much. That is where we want to get in. How can we get into this community thing and build connection?
So, do you find these opportunities largely through a creative process, or like it just bumps into you like accidentally?
It depends totally. About a lot of it has to undergo like strategy and all that stuff. Like 70% of the time I'm thinking and wondering, I'm lost. But when you're lost, that's when you find a lot of things in there. So I'm not completely focused on the story. Most of the time I just let myself out so that I can see things from a different perspective.
So there is a certain process that
exactly.
you So there is state that the pursuit of opportunities is highly likely to face unexpected occurrences. So were there any such events in your case?
Like I get you.
Like when you it's not just enough to perceive an opportunity, but you have to work, you have to exploit those opportunities. But then during the course of exploiting that opportunity, some events occur unexpectedly, which you have not predicted. And were there any such events in case of Latido?
A lot of it, but what I remember is we had so when I started, so I did not know much about how the product is being made. I was focusing more on how can I get like more people, or how can I build the brand, or how can I get customers. So I did not know much about the product. Leave aside the brand or whatever it is, product. Now it's not just like brand money. It's not just about the brand. The product point it has to deliver. The product has to be delivered properly. So one of our worker or our master, we found out that he used to work for one of our competitors, or like some other company. We found that out, and it hit me so hard, it hit me so hard, like to love my heartbreak, to feel like that somebody betrayed me, and that was like the first business heartbreak of my journey, and when that happened, I started learning about how the product is being made, and then what I started realizing was that how the product is being made, I got to know so much about the product. Had that incident not happened, it would have taken me a lot of time, but because that thing happened, I got to know a lot about the product, or how it's being made. I learned pattern making, so it brought me more closer to customizing. Because what we're doing is every day we are making different jackets. That's why people come to us, because they want something that's unique or of their size or whatever they want. So that incident brought me closer to the product making part.
So you'd agree that these unexpected occurrences
should happen. I think it should happen often. There's always a good side and a bad side to every incident that happens. It's our choice of how we perceive it.
So obviously, from a perception point of view, a lot of changes has been occurring. Like, for example, people used to be more about these non-synthetic polyurethane, but now they're shifting towards leather products, the authentic leather goods. So how has this resulted in like a source of opportunity for you?
I think the market into synthetic, the market, it's always there. It has always been there, but there's a different market of leather. I don't see that synthetic market as an opportunity. I want that synthetic market to be there only, so that this market is valuable. Getting my point? Like that's always there, I don't think a lot of people are shifting to leather. It's just that people who like leather, or who actually know about it, get aware about it and are opting for it. And a lot of people who thought that synthetic was actually leather are now shifting because awareness is there. So a lot of shops in Nepal, what they do is synthetic leather as leather and at a very low price. So these consumers, they think that it's leather and they get it for a cheap price, but after a few years, after 1 year, when everything is like bigger around, and then they realize that it's not leather, and then they feel like they've been scammed. So there's a huge opportunity for people who don't know that synthetic leather, to say definitely there's a huge opportunity.
Moving on to questions regarding innovation. Like, the business of leather jackets come highly in demand during the winters. However, a drastic decrease in the demand during summer can be experienced. How do you cope up with such harsh seasons?
I think we found out that Australia ma winter summer right, and a lot of Nepalese people live in Australia. So a large part of our business in summer, Nepal summer, it used to be Australia winter. So we were promoting products in Australia, and a huge community of Latido people are in Australia. So that has been one thing. And also say because winter summer obviously body we get to focus on development part. How can we change things? Because all of our, like we opened a store, the store was made entire summer. We got prepared for winter either. So summer is more like it's more like the development and especially the ideation and all the changes that you want to make. So just as we say, we take that opportunity.
So basically, you use this season to design.
Yeah.
But then a lot of leather manufacturers, they close during summers.
Exactly, and the reason for us to do that is we want to retain our workers, right? Like what my father used to do. So my father has been in this business. I've seen this business as a kid. Funny, what used to happen was summer, but it's like these workers, they were told to go home and saying the factory's closed. Now what happens is now these workers, they need to earn money. Now it's not about summer or winter. They need to earn money, and what happens is when summer now they have to opt to go some other place, okay? And then you train them and you create the culture in their brains, and now then they're again gone some other company, and then aula winter. That's now is what we do is that we invest so that these workers we can retain them, so that they would work winter or money.
So you change the process of how a leather industry operates.
Exactly.
So then, would you agree with the concept that for any innovation to be successful, it must destroy what is already set in the society?
I wouldn't say destroy, but I would say adapt. Like we humans, evolution and adaptation is so important. That's how we've got so better as human, like, compared to how we were. So that adaptation is important. Just last destroy.
So, but then adaptation ki pura bhada, it's going to be like there is a psychological inertia. People are going to not want to change. They want to stick with what is already set up. So how hard did you find that to integrate your innovative efforts into the operations, the business operations?
Definitely. I think it comes to the culture that we create. It's about what kind of psychological culture you create. Right? So, for example, I've had a good relationship with these workers. And I've made sure that I don't make them feel that I'm like the boss and they're the workers on the part. I always share the good things that happen in the company with them, okay? So that they will feel that they're part of it. They're part of how we are doing. Like I share pictures with them, I share stories with them, I share a lot of them. And then they realize that, okay, whatever I'm doing is actually, it's creating impact. So when, like, for example, our workers, if they meet a fellow worker of the same industry, right, and then it makes them feel good that they're part of something that is building something. So to communication of how you will psychologically imprint that culture is very important.
So obviously there were challenges which you might have faced during helping your workers to adapt to your innovative ideas, but then can you brief some of those challenges?
सबभन्दा ठुलो challenge that we have in Nepal चलिहाल्छ. सबभन्दा ठुलो challenge is भइहाल्छ नि, चलिहाल्छ नि. The laziness that we have, that has been one of the biggest challenges, and not just for the workers, for myself as well. Also by these, that's how it is. So that has been a huge challenge, and shifting the perception or the perspective that we have to be something different. But I think it's all about consistently doing it over a period of time. So, and like you said, difficulty was that because we lacked systems early on in the business, so there were these loopholes that these workers were able to take advantage of. So instead of fighting with them or creating trouble, we would rather fix those loopholes. So my point has always been that cut the root. not dwell over why the problem is happening, you know? Because my large part of my job is solving problems. Every day I wake up there's problem. Every day there is problem, you know? So I can't be like why there's problem, but how can I remove it from the root?
So over the 5 years, has Latido Leather focused on achieving a successful radical or incremental or disruptive innovation?
I don't know, man. I've never thought about it. I think not, neither of them. For me, how I see Latido is more about I take it as a very, very long business game. We've just started. The good thing is people are supporting us. I mean, we've got a good community and all that is there. तर हामीले अझै पनि लाइक यस्तो के डिस्ट्रक्टिभ गरेर छैन जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई, गर्नु बाँकी छ. एन्ड आवर गोल इज कसरी चाहिँ एउटा नेपाली ब्रान्डलाई चाहिँ ग्लोबल बनाउनु छ. वी वान्ट टु कम्पिट not within the country, but how can you compete globally? And not just with the product, not just with the brand, but overall with everything. And there is possibility. That's the dream. And 10 years, 20 years, we don't know, man. So, I'm learning a lot about things in 5 years. I'd say, like I was when I started almost. So every year has been a very learning process for me, and then I've made a lot of mistakes in terms of that. So a large part of an entrepreneur's job is to make decisions, right? I've always made wrong decisions, and the wrong decisions has helped me learn something. So now I can't make a wrong decision all my life, but I had the liberty to make early on decisions because we were small, we just started out, you know. So two aspect about it, say we want to revolutionize the way brands are seen in this country, and not just for ourselves, like made in Nepal, but the entire. Like not just leather. I don't see leather market, but I don't picture just leather market. Okay, I'm looking at overall like country made in Nepal product. How can we increase it? How can we decrease the import of Chinese T-shirts and socks, boxes, everything? Okay? If it can be made in this country and we can provide jobs, with राम्रो क्वालिटी हुँदैन होइन. So how can we change that perception? Now imagine 10जना कारिगरको perception change गर्न गाह्रो छ. How much effort is going to take to change the perception of the entire country? Right? So that's what we're doing. That's what we want to do. That how can we change the perception that something can be done with the brand in this country?
So still talking about disruptive innovations, there are theories which suggest that disruptive innovations occur because the new entrants either target the segments perceived to be inferior by the incumbents, or they create a completely new market. Which one of these reasons do you think has brought luck? Disruptive innovations, as theories suggest, occur because the new entrants either target the segments perceived to be inferior by the incumbents, or they create a completely new market. So which one of these reasons do you think has brought Latido Leathers to the forefront it is today?
I think I've always believed in less is more, right? Like I mean, less people, and this would see like overall, like not just this is how I perceive things, and like, I always believe that few always means more in terms of. I don't want to have a lot of friends. I want to have few friends. I don't want to go to a lot of places. I want to go to few places. I don't want to do a lot of things. I want to do few things. You know? So in terms of, I don't want to make a lot of jackets. I want to make few jackets, but few should be more than that. A lot well apart. Okay? Like you're getting what I mean, right? Like instead of having 10 friends, I would rather have 2. But those 2 friends are going to be more like impactful than those 10. So instead of going into mass production or delivering jackets to every who can cook of the bar, it's not about that. How can we create products that are valuable? And when it comes to making valuable things, it always has to be few. Yeah? Because we're not able to scale it up, you know? Right? So, like for example, every day, 10 to 15 jackets that are being in this factory are different. All the jackets are being different every day. If we made 15 same jackets every single day for 30 days, the production that we had would be 4-5 times more than what we have. Yeah? But that is not what we want to do. That is what most people do. What we are doing is we are creating products that have not been made for people who have never made, like for example, someone who is 6 feet tall or उसको size के jacket पाउँदैन भने that's when it comes to us, right?
So basically you're saying that Latido's disruptive part is that you're customizing it, but
Yeah.
then a lot of them are mass producing it.
Yeah, we're focusing more into customization and value. Now the challenge is how do we scale that?
So do you believe that the changes in the industry structure form a source of innovative opportunities? Industry structure as in you can say like a lot of youths, they are into leather products, and there has been a lot of increase in our gross national disposable income and all that. So people are willing to buy a lot of, even if it is expensive, they are willing to buy leather products. So do you think that these changes in the industry structure, they are actually helping you to gain more innovative opportunities?
See how perspective says if you're wearing khatra quality pant, you would want to wear a khatra quality t-shirt pani, a khatra quality socks pani, you getting what I mean, right? So it's not just about one product, okay? So if someone is wearing like an expensive jacket or something, with a shirt, but the mentality created so that when he's invested something, so one thing leads to another, right? So the fashion thing may grow. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah. This change that the industry structure is facing, like they're not just for the leather jackets.
Like for example, if people are buying expensive leather jackets, it means that people are also buying expensive watch.
Yeah.
It's so connected. You getting what I mean? Like then they'll buy expensive shoes as well. So it's going to open up a whole, and everything is connected. So that's what I mean. It's not just about the leather product that is growing. It's just that people have started realizing that they want something that's valuable, whether it's a jacket or a wallet or a mobile phone or whatever it is. Like Nepal, you see like so many people are using iPhone. Like when we see that it's Nepal, the unemployment does not matter. Does not matter.
So moving on, how have you been able to cope with a large number of orders from foreign countries with an obviously lack of manpower in leather industries?
Yeah, that has been a real challenge. Let's say, like the thing that is stopping us from or delaying how we are growing is we've lost so much of manpower. Okay, like people have left this country and they're working out. I want to say it's very difficult here. That has been a challenge. Now to tackle that, how we're looking at is how we train people now. That's what we've started. So we want to train. It's going to take some time. So that's a real challenge. Finding skilled manpower has been a real challenge.
So, like, unlike a lot of leather industries, you've incorporated RFID procedures into your business. Like, you can know when your leather jacket was manufactured, who manufactured it. And so, what was the main reason behind this, changing this process of manufacturing?
Main reason was when we found problem in the jacket, we did not know who made that mistake. Okay? So, we used to complain and they said, this is not my jacket, this is not my jacket. Then we realized that again it comes down to the root. We fixed that. So that problem actually gave us this idea that we should have all this.
So these innovative ideas that you brought into Latido, they're more of a logic-based or creativity-based, like perceptual or conceptual?
Both. It has to be balance of both.
So moving on, the industry of leather products is largely dominated by handmade procedures. Do you think it actually benefit the industry to integrate automation according to the process needs into the procedures?
I think to a certain extent, automation. Now again, मेरो थियो यसमा के छ भने not everything in this world can be automated, right? Right. If you have to wish your mother happy birthday, you have to call and say, you cannot make somebody else do that. So you cannot automate that. You know? So that's the same with handmade products. Not everything can be automated. So a lot of things can be automated, but so that the process goes easier. Right? So just all about the pattern making thing, you know, that's a very delicate part. You know? That cannot be automated. That's what I feel. It can be made easier. That's there, but complete automation is this magalas. A lot of things can be automated, like button handling, a lot of procedures can be automated, but not everything.
But if you automate the procedures, don't you think that it would be easier for you to reach the number of orders?
Yeah, but it has to be something that can be automated. That's what I'm saying. You know? So if I want to understand a customer's perspective of how they want the jacket, I cannot automate that. You know? So there has to be this human communication with them. You know? But apart from that, how jackets are being made, a lot of processes. Yeah, definitely. And we've realized that, you know, as you said, when we automated that, we realized that why did we do it earlier? Because it saved us so much of time and effort. So automation is important, but identifying those automation, it takes time, and your business will only show you that. That's what I feel.
So Latido has also incorporated a lot of customizing. So a source of open innovation is there in your company. So do you think these open innovations help businesses to get ahead?
It does, but as I said again, now it depends what you want to choose, right? Like whether you want, when it comes to customization, it slows down the mass production for you. But the difference between customization and mass production is, customization, let's say, it's now different things, you know, that takes time, right? That slows down the process. Customization is the very why of our company. Like why Latido is one part is the major part is customization. Okay? So I think that differentiation is what helps us in realizing that we can wear as well.
So moving on to the next segment of our interview, the entrepreneurship questionnaires. There are theories that state that 3 basic characteristics of entrepreneurship is considered to be risk-taking behavior, innovation, and venturing into new business activities for profit. How do you think these are synonymous to you or Latido?
Risk-taking. How I've learned, for me, like for my entrepreneurial career, I've read a lot of unconventional entrepreneurs. You know, one of the interesting things that I found was that though theories claim that, you know, an entrepreneur is someone who takes risk, makes big decisions, how I perceive it is that a true entrepreneur does not take risk. He minimizes the risk. That's what I've learned. I'm learning, and I'm trying to put my strategy. You know, but this was something that I learned. And it really, I really found it interesting. And that why should you take risk? Your job should be how can you reduce or minimize the risk, right? Instead of taking big risk, an entrepreneur should be someone who should actually minimize risk, right? So that's how I perceive it. That I don't want to take risk because when I take risk, most of the time it goes wrong, you know. So how can we minimize risk? The risk may be like not taking any risk at all. What was the second thing? Innovation.
And venturing into new business activities for profit.
For me, profit is एकदम sensitive कुरा के like sometimes profit को लागि चाहिँ हामी हाम्रो cultural values or like we forget that just for the sake of profit, and I think that could hit us back all apart. So I haven't focused much on that part अहिले, but I think in the long run I have to. But अहिले चाहिँ I haven't ventured त्यस्तो अहिले not much, not experience enough for that.
So there are also theories which define two approaches to entrepreneurship: opportunity-based entrepreneurship and necessity-based entrepreneurship. Which one of them do you categorize yourself into, and why?
I think neither of them. I am like circumstantial on based entrepreneurship. I never dreamt of becoming an entrepreneur, or I never wanted to become. I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. That was the best thing that happened to me. I was actually doing engineering, you know. I mean, engineering पढ्दा पढ्दा चाहिँ class 9 म लाग्दैन थियो, and then I got T10. I had to leave college because of low attendance, and then I started realizing that, you know, do I really want to be an engineer? And then I realized that I don't want to be an engineer, and then I realized, what should I do? I don't know what I'm good at or what I could be good at, but something, you know, that life is the point. Those circumstances led me to, you know, do something on my own. I just wanted to do something on my own. Because I was so fed up with the people and everything around me, or isn't that all the negative energy, that I just decided one thing, that I'm gonna take charge of my life. That's it. I don't care if I make money or I don't care, but I wanna take decisions on myself. I wanna own the mistakes or whatever I'm doing. I just wanna do that. I don't want to be dependent upon anyone in this world. And then that led me to entrepreneurship, and then I started realizing and started learning and all that. So it was not that my opportunity it was completely accidental for me.
So, do you conform to the belief that entrepreneurs are made, or born?
Neither. Entrepreneurs are the ones who realize that they can do it. That's what I feel. Like, I think it's not just about being like born with it or then acquiring it. I think it's about self-realization. Like, you know, realization that what do you really want in life. That's like, for example, like we see a lot of hype on entrepreneurship, that, you know, give up your 9-to-5 job and, you know, build a business. Not everybody wants to do that. Okay? It's not about can do that only, but want nahi chhaina, okay? You know what I mean? Not everybody wants to do that. Okay? A lot of people want to be happy 9 to 5, and then, you know, after 5 they can spend time with their loved ones and family. Why are we promoting something that is? It's not about that banna sakne kura haina. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to build something, or not everybody wants to earn a lot of money. Everybody has their own meaning of happiness. Having a business is not about being happy. Being happy and then building a business is something else. Like, you're getting my point? Like, in way like, I see the entrepreneurship every college, you know, so many events happening. And the events are money cost to money. How can we change the perception from finding job to creating job? Now, if everybody will create job, who will do the job? Like, isn't it? I don't know, like, not everybody wants to, like, because every choice that you make has a consequence. A lot of people, after they become doctors, because their parents spend their money on their medical or whatever, they spend their life, even they don't want to be a doctor, okay? They hate looking at that patient, they don't have it in them. Imagine wasting a life, okay? We're here to be happy, not be a businessman or entrepreneur or engineer, whatever it is. Be whatever you want, you have to be happy with it. That's what I feel like. You know, if I want to be, I never aspire that business, I don't feel that. I want to be that. I want to be the most happiest person in this world. I just want to be happy.
So for you, entrepreneurship is basically circumstantial.
Yeah, circumstantial. It's for me, like, for me, entrepreneurship is my way of life. My job is being the CEO. That is something that I'm really bad at the moment. Like, you can see my office right now, it's so messed up. I know. So being an entrepreneur is a different thing. Being a CEO for me is different.
So moving on, do you think that family backgrounds can influence an entrepreneurial journey? Like, in your case, you took the business from your dad and scaled it to Latido. So was there any influence from your family, or anything that you not related to just business, but then anything family can influence to evoke entrepreneurship?
I think one thing that my mom did very good for me was that she always thought that even though I was never gay, she always like when she used to she used to always tell me that you've got brains, you have to study. She used to trick me and she used to fool me, but I took that seriously at times. Yeah, I can say. So and she never ever disregarded me that I'm a failure, even though I failed. She understood that the emotion of a child is so sensitive, right? Like parents don't realize that their words matter so much, okay? And they speak so many things, and that hampers so much of a child's emotion. But the good thing about my parenthood was that even though I had a very strict father, who was a high-tempered guy, that was also a good thing. Okay? My mom and dad, they were completely different, opposite kind of parenting. Okay? My mom is more like, take it easy. My dad is more like, she's gonna beat the shit out if she talks something type. So the complete different, pulling from the opposite directions, and that is what is also one of the important things of entrepreneurship class. Okay? It's pulling from both directions. Okay? So that was a very important aspect of parenthood, I would say. That my mom, she always understood my emotions and acted accordingly. Helped me a lot.
So basically speaking, there are two psychological theories which profile an entrepreneur: trait approach and cognitive approach. Which one of do you think sums up an entrepreneur better, and why?
Both. Again, it comes down to both. Balance of both. And I think the Yura Matre boy, when say, I don't know, man. I think we need, it should be a mix of both, a balance of both, the trait and the cognitive as well. Cognitive for me, it's more about anticipation, right? Like for me, how I judge people is based upon how they can anticipate things. Yeah? Like for example, if I tell someone to do something, if they do it or they don't understand, I teach them, right? Okay. If I tell that person to do something else that is related to that thing, and he can anticipate that skill and do that without me having to teach him, I'm like, okay. So that's how I don't judge a person that, but in terms of skill, that's how I see it. Okay? Like anticipation, anticipating bad times, anticipating like when saying what could go right, or anticipation, say, very important. So that's what I feel.
So, do you think entrepreneurship to be a process or an attribute of a person?
It's a journey. Yeah. It's a journey. It's not just about attribute, but it's a everyday journey.
So it's kind of a process. Like
exactly, process, and you have to love the process more than the destination where you reach.
So talking about the traits that an entrepreneur must have according to theories like risk taker, leadership, innovative, opportunistic. So do these entrepreneur personalities in any capacity influence the outcomes of entrepreneurial activities?
It does. For example, leadership. What leadership for me is, leadership means hope. That's what I feel. Like if I want to do something for my team, is that I can create, is I want to create hope. When they can see nothing in darkness, even though I am seeing the darkness, I should be that, there's no darkness, come with me. There's something at the end of the tunnel. Somebody has to be there who has to take that lead. So for me, leadership is hope. And with hope, for me, leadership is not just about mathematics or any strategies and all that, or all that written numbers and all that. I feel it's also about emotions. Right? How can you make someone feel protected? Make someone feel that there is someone to help you grow. So a lot of things are involved. When it comes to people, I always logic always be emotion over always comes first, okay? More than logic. Because a lot of emotional things defy logic. You know that, right? A lot of emotional things defy logic. That's how people are. People are complicated, people are full of emotions. They're not full of logic.
So, but then your CFO, would you say is more of a
No, he has to be a number guy. I wouldn't I wouldn't want an emotional guy to be a accounting guy, because if I am emotional, I want my CFO to be someone that he looks at the number nicely, right? But if for a leader, I would want a both. Them to have both. I wouldn't want this too much straight. Mixture of both. That's what I feel.
So there should be a mixture.
Mixture
To
balance. Because here's the thing, being too emotional is also a bad thing. People take advantage of it. So the balance is very important.
Like you mentioned earlier that you were betrayed by one of your workers during this process. So have you felt that it's important for an entrepreneur to actually be able to surround themselves with a proper team?
Definitely. Like, because you cannot do everything on your own, right? So proper team in the sense, team that understands you, and that is one of the most difficult things that I feel. Stability. I think it's one of the most difficult thing. Not everybody can, like, I don't know, I cannot outsource that. I don't think that it takes a lot of time and trial and error. You will not have hired the right person at first. Then you will hire the wrong person. Then you have to realize that, and then you have to again do that. Then grow them. They're all wrong things.
So would you say that for an entrepreneur it is very essential for them to be opportunistic?
I don't know. Not for me. Not for me.
So you think that for an entrepreneur it is not necessary to be very alert of the opportunities around him?
I call it anticipation now. I don't know for people who are there opportunities, what they understand, but for me, I focus more on anticipating it. You can call it opportunity on your own, but yeah, looking at things before somebody else looks at it, so you can reach there first and then call somebody else.
What do you think, besides risk-bearing capacity, consistency, and alertness towards opportunities, or in your case, anticipation, are more important to realize a successful entrepreneurship?
Options, you can say.
Besides risk-bearing capacity, consistency, and in your case,
Anticipation. I think another one would be the one that I'm actually struggling with, or the one that I've realized lately is good things take time, and time cannot be bought by money, and patience, right? Like we want things so quickly, we want the result tomorrow. So that the period of patience, how can we, calm ourselves down? Patience is so important, right? And investment, right? So for me, like investing not just in terms of money, but investing in people, investing in future, investing in understanding how things are going to happen. These two things, I would say, that patience is being the most important.
So, in our country, I think that it is very difficult to operate a business because a lot of business environment uncertainty is there.
Yes.
So, how as an entrepreneur do you think one should tackle these uncertainties?
I think, as you said, that for an entrepreneur, opportunity is a great thing. This country, I see that as an opportunity because there are so many problems. Yeah? From an entrepreneur or a business perspective, there has to be a problem to solve. So it's good that there are problems and issues and all that. So people find ways to tackle it. That's what an entrepreneur should do. That's what I think.
So, to conclude this interview, I would like to ask you to define, in your views, the relationship between opportunity, innovation, and entrepreneurship.
Opportunity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I think it starts with opportunity, or I call it anticipation, right? And then innovating that, and then mixing both is what creates entrepreneurship. That's how I think that.
innovation works as a tool to pursue that opportunity.
Exactly. Innovate the garni tarki mo garni. You need to know, you need to find that something, and then innovate it, and then entrepreneurship comes in when you blend it and you bring it out. It's simple.
This is the end of our interview, and I would like to thank Mr. Bilal for
Thank you for your questions.
giving us the time. Thank you.